Captain Ibrahim Traoré.
Ibrahim Traoré.
Ibrahim Traoré.
Ibrahim Traoré.
Keep this photo safe as it forms the foundation of today's story. When I looked at it, a thought came to mind. If you don't have the strength to finish a fight, don't start it. We all have moments of doubt. We all have our weaknesses and we all have our faults. No one is perfect. Why did this thought come to my mind? It's because this photo was taken between 2009 and 2010. The person in the photo was about 20 years old at the time, very young and just starting his military training. The photo was taken in a military camp during that period. At that time, this man, a beginner soldier with a private rank, didn't realize that he would one day become one of the most influential leaders of all time, achieving what many could never have imagined through a coup. Today, he is youngest president in the world and has become a powerful political force, making headlines worldwide with his extraordinary actions. But first, let me take you back in time to a long time ago. On September 5th, 1852, in a building called Corinthian Hall, a well-known abolitionist, Frederick Douglass, stood before the Ladies' Anti-Slavery Society and spoke words that flowed like blood in the veins of African Americans. Even today, those words continue to circulate across the hills and valleys of Africa because they marked the moment when African Americans in the USA began to rise against oppression. At that time, Frederick Douglass boldly said,
"Listen and hear me well. A slave who does not fight for his freedom, who refuses to rise against bondage, will remain a slave forever and does not merit concern."
He meant that a slave who does not struggle to free himself from slavery will always remain enslaved, and such a person does not deserve any comfort. When we talk about a slave who does not deserve to be concerned because he sits back and waits for others to come and free him, it reminds me of words recently spoken at the 2023 Afro-Russian Summit in St. Petersburg, Russia. These words came from a young man, a former soldier, and now the father of 2 children, who has become a symbol of defiance against the European colonizers who continue to take advantage of Africa with their dishonest tactics. The person I am referring to is Captain Ibrahim Traoré, who was present at a conference with some of the world's greatest leaders, including President Vladimir Putin, who vowed to stop Washington's interference in the politics of other countries. Ibrahim Traoré said,
"Not a single question that is being asked. We don't have an answer, and it turns out that here we can wash our linseed because we feel like a family. It feels like a family in the sense that Russia is also a family for Africa."
He accurately quoted the words Frederick Douglass said in 1852, which means this young man thoroughly read books without skipping and understood what was hidden within them. Those from the West call him a military junta, but he says that this also speaks to him. As for others who have heard what he says, what he does, and his political struggles, they immediately accepted what Magdalena Villaba called metempsychosis in 1976. In this theory, this scholar boldly claimed that in this mindset, when a person dies, their soul leaves their body and wanders in the air until it enters another person who then acts and behaves as the previous person did. Those who observed this concluded, no doubt, when Thomas Isidore Noel Sankara, the hero and renowned figure from Burkina Faso, died tragically on October 15, 1987, his soul left Ouagadougou, where he died, and traveled past the Kokologo region, passing through the bowls of Koudougou and Dédougou. By the following year, 1988, it had settled in the commune of Bundukui, where Ibrahim Traoré was born that same year and grew up to resemble Thomas Sankara. The prophecies in the writings of Magdalena Villaba, Kurt Friedrich Gödel, and Arthur Schopenhauer, which claimed souls would leave one person and enter another, were fulfilled in the land of Burkina Faso, known as the land of upright men, as the people of Burkina Faso proudly say in their praises and tributes to their hero, Thomas Sankara. Up until now, if you've been paying attention, the main story is about sharing some specific details about the world's youngest president. The president of Burkina Faso, Captain Ibrahim Traoré. I know you've heard a lot about him, but let me tell you something unique that you might not have known about this man who chose not to laugh, because there is nothing to laugh about in this world. Let's dive into the thoughts and ideologies of this bold man who swore to lead the country, wearing face masks like the ninja warriors from faraway lands such as Yamashiro, Iga, and Yamato. I'm sharing how this man, respected and revered in Africa, lives a humble life without the luxury cars that many other African presidents enjoy, while their citizens suffer from hunger and poverty in their countries. In the 2 years he has been in power, Traoré rejected the salary that presidents usually receive and chose to continue his salary as a military captain. Do you know why? Because he lives in a simple house, not a palace like others. You should also know about this man's survival of a sinister plot to overthrow him, a conspiracy funded with 5 billion CFA by some of his enemies. You should understand the depths of his life and how he has transformed his country, Burkina Faso, in just 2 years in power. At this point, one might wonder, who is Captain Ibrahim Traoré? Where did he come from to find himself in the highest seat of power in Burkina Faso? The countdown begins now. Welcome to the world of research. Welcome to the large family of Wisdom in Narrations. Captain Ibrahim Traoré was born on 14th March 1988 in Kera, Bondokui, Muhun province of Burkina Faso. He attended primary school in his hometown Bondokui and secondary school in Bobo Dioulasso, Burkina Faso's second largest city. In this school, he was known as being quiet and very talented. Unlike his predecessor, Damiba, and many other Burkinabe officers who embraced a military career as teenagers, Ibrahim Traoré had a civilian background before joining the army. In 2006, he moved to Ouagadougou, the capital, to study geology at the Joseph Kizerbo University. In the latter, he rose to delegate and became known for defending his classmates in disputes. He graduated from the university with honors. In 2009, Ibrahim Traoré took bold decision and joined the Georges Namwano Military Academy. This academy is a second-tier institution compared to the prestigious Kadiogo Military Academy, KMP, of which Thomas Sankara and the former President Damiba are alumni. Upon his graduation in 2012, he was sent to Morocco for anti-aircraft training before being transferred to an infantry unit in Kaya, a town in northern Burkina Faso. 2 years later, in 2024, he was promoted to lieutenant. After serving in relatively junior positions in Burkina Faso's military, Traoré's major breakthrough came in the same year of promotion, 2014, when he was deployed to Mali as a soldier under the United Nations peacekeeping mission program, MINUSMA. In Mali, Traoré cut his teeth fighting the jihadists and ethnic insurgents. According to various accounts, Traoré showed bravery in the face of a complex attack by militants in the northern Tombouctou region. This was in 2018. The following year, in 2019, he participated in a military operation codenamed Operation at Djibo in the Otapuanu offensive in Burkina Faso's restive east for 7 months and several other counterinsurgency operations in the country's north. Despite being touted as a major success, this operation resulted in only temporary withdrawal by militants from the region and a corresponding increase in attacks elsewhere in the country. Ibrahim Traoré also served in a detachment of Marcoye in the northern Sahel region at the so-called Three Borders Zone of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger on the front lines against jihadist groups, and took part in several operations there. People who knew Traoré at the time said that he exhibited leadership attributes, including being willful, courageous, and close to his men. Ibrahim Traoré was promoted to the rank of captain in 2020. Around the same time, however, he was among the young and destitute officers who couldn't help observing their superiors' inability to contain the jihadists' threat in the field. Traoré and his fellow officers were stuck between a rock and hard place. One source recounted an incident that occurred in 2020 when the town of Barsalogo in central Burkina Faso was on the verge of falling to jihadists. The highway into Barsalogo was believed to have been mined, so Traoré led his men on a commando trek across the countryside, arriving in time to free the town. In Burkina Faso, the attacks by the jihadist groups include armed attacks, abductions, carjackings, improvised explosive devices, rocket attacks, and ambushes. The most affected regions in Burkina Faso are the Sahel, North, Central North, and the East. By late 2021, a humanitarian crisis was evident in many parts of Burkina Faso, and a quarter of the population faced food insecurity. By mid-September 2022, more than 3,000 people had been killed, a third more than in all of 2021. Overall, some 2 million people have been displaced in Burkina Faso. In January 2022, a military coup led by Lieutenant Colonel Paul-Henri Damiba overthrew the civilian government of President Roch-Marc Christian Kaboré. President Kaboré was elected in 2015 and re-elected in 2020 to replace President Michel Kafando, who led a transitional government following the 2014 popular revolution that ousted Blaise Compaoré. Blaise Compaoré ruled Burkina Faso for 27 years after taking power in the 1987 bloody coup that claimed the life of revolutionary leader Thomas Sankara. When Damiba took power, he cited President Kaboré's inability to curb the Islamic insurgency plaguing Burkina Faso. Soon after taking power, Damiba instituted the Patriotic Movement for the Safeguard and Restoration, the MPSR, and vowed to reconquer the country by fighting the jihadist insurgents and helping the 2 million internally displaced people return to their homes. Captain Ibrahim Traoré became a member of the MPSR, as Damiba's junta chose to call itself. In March of 2022, Damiba promoted Ibrahim Traoré to become the head of artillery in the Kaya regiment in the center of the country, but it was a move that ironically would sow the seeds of Damiba's own downfall. Unfortunately, during President Damiba's short time in power, attacks by militant Islamists increased in Burkina Faso, as they seized territory in rural areas and encircled cities. Under this new government, little improvement was seen by many members of the military. Those stationed in remote areas often did not receive their pay on time. Captain Ibrahim Traoré's regiment became a source of discontent, and Traoré himself, tasked by his colleagues with channeling their frustrations, made several trips to Ouagadougou to plead their case with President Damiba. As the months went by, discontent with President Damiba continued growing among the troops. The soldiers still faced the same logistical difficulties and were suffering heavy losses. This is while Lieutenant Colonel Damiba and his entourage of air-conditioned officers sitting in their comfortable, cool headquarters in the capital were accused of being out of touch with reality. Disillusionment at the response of Damiba's government turned into anger, which appears to have crystallized among the soldiers into resolve to seize power. Like the January push, the trigger was an attack on 26 September 2022 by jihadist forces on a 150-truck convoy loaded with food headed for Djibo, one of the main cities in the war-torn north. This city of 60,000 people had been under siege by terror groups for about 18 months. This attack on the convoy, which was claimed by an Al-Qaeda-linked group, killed 37 people, including 27 soldiers. In the army ranks, the frustration was clear, especially among the youngest members. This defeat of the army was pinned on Damiba. A week earlier, he had mobilized a 70-strong delegation to attend the United Nations Summit in New York. There, President Damiba argued that his government was making some progress in the fight against terrorism, and he also asked for support from the international community. The trip to the United Nations Summit was perceived at home in Burkina Faso as wasteful and in total disregard of the dire insecurity situation of the country. In the days that followed, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, on behalf of many aggrieved soldiers, went to Ouagadougou to speak with President Damiba. He asked for an audience with the presidents, but never received an answer. Faced with what they saw as contempt, Traoré and other officers of his generation decided to take action. At dawn on September 30th, 2022, gunfire erupted across Ouagadougou, the capital of Burkina Faso. It was the opening act of a coup that would shake the nation. By 8 p.m. local time, a striking scene unfolded on national television. A soldier in military fatigues, wearing a bulletproof vest and a red beret, appeared on the Burkina Broadcasting Corporation, RTB. Surrounded by hooded and helmeted men, he delivered a bombshell announcement. Captain Ibrahim Traoré was taking over as head of the Patriotic Movement for Safeguard and Restoration, MPSR, overthrowing Lieutenant Colonel Paul-Henri Sandaogo Damiba. The coup leaders justified their actions by accusing Damiba of betraying their shared vision. They claimed he had failed to address the deteriorating security situation that had initially motivated the January 2022 coup, which brought him to power. Instead, they said, Damiba had focused on unfortunate political adventures, neglecting the fight to reclaim territories occupied by jihadist insurgents. According to Traoré, he and other officers had attempted to persuade Damiba to refocus on the rebellion, but his refusal left them with no choice but to remove him. Discontent had been brewing for months, especially among younger officers who carried the hardest burden of the fight against armed groups linked to ISIL and Al-Qaeda. The elite Cobra unit, known for its frontline operations, faced delays in pay, further deepening frustrations. When the plotters launched their coup on September 30th, Traoré, still a captain, found strong support within the Cobra unit, which played a key role in the operation. Traoré's junta declared its commitment to addressing the country's challenges. They vowed to refocus on national security, restore territorial integrity, and uphold Burkina Faso's international commitments, including respect for human rights. Additionally, they announced plans to diversify Burkina Faso's international partnerships in the fight against jihadism. However, the coup soon escalated into a broader crisis. On October 1st, with their takeover appearing to struggle, Traoré and his officers accused Damiba of seeking refuge at the French military base in Camboinsin, where they claimed he was planning a counter-offensive. In a nation filled with anti-French sentiment, this claim ignited outrage. Although the French government denied the allegation, thousands of protesters took to the streets of Ouagadougou and Bobo-Dioulasso, targeting the French embassy and cultural institutes. What began as a military coup transformed into a popular uprising against perceived foreign interference. During the night, momentum shifted decisively in Traoré's favor. Several army units, including the Air Force and Special Forces, declared their allegiance to him. By the next morning, Damiba was forced to resign. He reportedly agreed to step down on the condition that his safety and the safety of his allies were guaranteed. The whole world was astonished 6 days later when he came to swear in as the interim leader after he had relied on the strength of a hidden weapon. At that time, he arrived at the venue before the press and its writers, wearing military attire and walking with a step that made you remember his role was to engage in combat. What surprised those present was that he was wearing a face mask, as he didn't want those watching him to see his face, which could have scared some of them. Then, a document with 3 sentences in French was handed to him. With his hand raised, he said,
I swear before the people of Burkina Faso and on my honor to preserve, respect, uphold, and defend the Constitution, the Charter of Transition, and the laws, to make every effort to guarantee justice to all inhabitants of Burkina Faso.
At just 34 years old, Captain Ibrahim Traoré was installed as transitional president, becoming the world's youngest leader at the time. Thousands of Burkinabe citizens gathered in the capital to celebrate his ascension in what resembled a victory parade. Captain Ibrahim Traoré is so young that to match his age to Paul Biya, the 91-year-old president of Cameroon and Africa's oldest leader, you would need to double Traoré's age and then add 19 years. Captain Ibrahim Traoré remarked that he has no interest in the formalities of wearing political suits or engaging in political posturing. His focus is on reviving a nation that seemed to be falling apart. He declared that he is prepared to make any sacrifice to ensure his country can once again breathe the air of peace and freedom.
No sacrifice will be too great to take this country out of the situation in which it finds itself. So, our commitment is for a return to peace, and our compass will always be the people.
However, it became evident to the more observant minds that Ibrahim Traoré is backed by a man of St. Petersburg, Vladimir Putin. Just 2 days after the coup took place, a journalist from the New York Times, Eliane Peltier, stated, "In Burkina Faso, the man who staged a coup was himself ousted by another." In this article, Eliane Peltier revealed that he had uncovered clear evidence of the involvement of the Wagner Group and Russia in everything Traoré did. 2 days later, Edward McAllister of Reuters corroborated this, affirming that he had followed the developments closely and found that those attempting to challenge or undermine Traoré should tread carefully, as Russia stood firmly behind him. Nevertheless, Traoré denied all these claims, telling France 24 that he did not need Wagner soldiers from Russia, as he had already established a local version of Wagner in Burkina Faso. He stated,
"I do not need Wagner soldiers from Russia because I have our own Wagner here, called VDP, Volontaires pour la Défense de la Patrie. These are volunteer fighters ready to protect and defend the land of Burkina Faso."
However, the secrecy surrounding his connections with the Russians came to light on September 27, 2023, in St. Petersburg, when he attended the Russia-Africa Summit. During the event, he openly stated that Russia is one family with Burkina Faso. For him, it is not just Burkina Faso, as Russia is one family with all of Africa due to the shared history between Africa and Russia. Traoré said,
"It feels like a family in the sense that Russia is also a family for Africa. It is a family because we have the same history. Russia made enormous sacrifices to liberate the world from Nazism during the Second World War. The people of Africa, our grandfathers, were also forcibly deported to help Europe get rid of Nazism. We share the same history in the sense that we are the forgotten peoples of the world, whether in the history books, in documentaries, or in film."
Those who heard this said, "Now Traoré, we have proof. You can no longer deny your ties with the Russians, especially since you call them brothers, and openly declare without hesitation your support for working with them." Traoré initially promised to hold democratic elections by July 2024. However, on May 25, 2024, the junta announced an extension of its rule for another 5 years, with Traoré remaining in power. The decision sparked mixed reactions domestically and internationally, as many questioned whether it marked a retreat from the promised transition to civilian governance. Since Traoré's rise to power, relations with France, Burkina Faso's former colonial ruler, have remained tense. Demonstrations demanding an end to the French military presence reflect a broader sentiment across West Africa and the Sahel, where anti-French sentiment is growing. Traoré's leadership has also seen Burkina Faso strengthen ties with other global partners, signaling a shift in the nation's foreign policy. In January 2023, Burkina Faso gave France 1 month to withdraw its troops as it ended a military accord that allowed French troops to fight insurgents on its territory, citing a wish for Burkina Faso to defend itself. The following month, in February 2023, the two countries, France and Burkina Faso, officially marked the end of French military operations in the West African nation after a flag-lowering ceremony at the French Special Forces camp. Since the time of coup up to today, Ibrahim Traoré consistently appeared in military combat attire, complete with a red beret, tactical gloves, and a pistol on his right thigh. This has become his signature look. So today, how is this youngest president in the world, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, who took power through a military coup, living? Does he ride in luxurious and expensive cars like other African presidents who exist to exploit their countries? Does he live in lavish homes? How does he and his family live? Ibrahim Traoré, the president of Burkina Faso, has chosen a different path, one that rejects the status quo. While most African leaders live in palaces, indulge in luxury, and draw enormous salaries, Traoré made an unprecedented decision. He refused the $76,000 salary, the standard for presidents in his country. Instead, he kept his military captain's pay, which is significantly less. He chose to put his people above personal gain. His story is not just about Burkina Faso, it's about the future of African leadership. In just 2 years, Ibrahim Traoré has done what many leaders on the continent can only dream of achieving in a lifetime. But what sets him apart isn't just his choice to decline wealth, it's his entire approach to leadership. To give some context, in Burkina Faso, the average presidential salary is $76,000 annually. For comparison, the average salary of an African president is $170,000 a year. Meanwhile, the average monthly income in Burkina Faso is a mere $73. But Traoré didn't stop at rejecting his salary. In a bold move to ensure that his people's resources went toward their future, he reduced government salaries by 20%. This was not just a symbolic gesture, it was a real effort to redirect resources from the government's pockets to the nation's most pressing needs. What Traoré did with the money saved from his salary and the cuts in government wages got people's attention. He reinvested it back into the country, focusing on long-term projects that would empower his people. Traoré invested in building schools, mechanizing agriculture, and even setting up textile factories. He took the initiative to create domestic tomato processing plants to reduce dependency on imports and build a more sustainable agricultural sector. But perhaps most impressively, he laid the foundation for oil refineries. These are not short-term projects, they're long-term investments that will drive the country's economy for decades to come. This isn't just talk, these are real, measurable steps toward transforming Burkina Faso's economy. In a continent where most leaders flaunt their wealth, boasting fleets of expensive cars, private jets, and sprawling mansions, Traoré has chosen simplicity. He drives a basic car, wears military fatigues, and lives modestly. This is a stark contrast to leaders across Africa, where opulence is often seen as a symbol of power. Traoré has rejected that notion entirely. He lives by a simple principle. His duty is to his people, not to luxury. His leadership style has earned him comparisons to Burkina Faso's revolutionary hero, Thomas Sankara. Like Sankara, Traoré values service over personal comfort, proving that humility in leadership doesn't equate to weakness. It strengthens the bond between a leader and their people. While many presidents would use their position for self-enrichment, Ibrahim Traoré has done the opposite. His focus has been entirely on service. He has reduced his salary, rejected the perks of office, and ensured that the government's financial resources benefit the country's development. This is true leadership in action. Ibrahim Traoré's leadership is not about self-promotion or seeking personal gain. In fact, little is known about his personal life. Unlike many African leaders who parade their families and relationships in the public eye, Traoré keeps his private life completely out of the spotlight. You won't find photos of his wife or children online, an uncommon practice for heads of state. His focus remains firmly on his country's future, not personal attention. This level of dedication to service is rare in world leadership, let alone in Africa, where political figures often use their positions for self-promotion. In less than 2 years, Ibrahim Traoré has proven that leadership doesn't have to come with excess wealth or luxury. His focus on humility, service, and prioritizing the welfare of his people has made him an exception in a continent where power is often synonymous with personal enrichment. By rejecting the idea that a president must be rich and live in luxury, Ibrahim Traoré is paving the way for a new kind of leadership in Africa, one where the people come first, not the politicians. His actions have already made a significant impact on Burkina Faso, and if other leaders across Africa follow his example, the future of the continent could look very different. Allow me to take you into the part of the rescue of Captain Ibrahim Traoré's regime overthrow. How did it happen that Captain Ibrahim Traoré himself survived a coup d'etat just as he executed one? It was part of a sinister plot that involved up to 5 billion CFA francs.
Man offers Burkina Faso soldiers $8 million to overthrow government. The Burkina Faso Defense and Security Forces have foiled an attempt to topple the military junta with an offer of $8.17 million.
On November 8, 2024, Burkina Faso's president faced a life-threatening attack in the capital, Ouagadougou. A covert plot targeting the country's stability was foiled when the military uncovered a scheme involving a mysterious figure who entered Burkina Faso under the guise of a business trip. This individual brought with him 5 billion CFA francs, which were intended not for development but to bribe soldiers into destabilizing the country. The money was meant to fund a coup and shift Burkina Faso's leadership. The suspect, linked to influential foreign interests, sought to exploit the country's weaknesses. Burkina Faso, abundant in natural resources such as gold and other minerals, holds a strategic position in West Africa. As the country had made strides towards stability, certain foreign powers viewed this as a threat. The plot was simple: bribe soldiers with large sums of money to secure their loyalty, igniting chaos that would shift power. However, the soldiers approached by the suspect were not easily convinced. These seasoned veterans had fought against insurgents and extremist groups. Their loyalty to Burkina Faso remained unshaken, and instead of rejecting the offer, they played along, reporting the suspect's moves to their superiors. Over weeks, they gathered critical information and were able to expose the full extent of the conspiracy. On the day of the planned exchange, a sting operation was set into motion. The suspect was apprehended at a warehouse, his suitcase filled with the cash meant for the coup. Hidden cameras and surveillance had recorded everything, providing undeniable evidence of the plot. The suspect's arrest revealed a far-reaching conspiracy, with connections to foreign operatives and mercenaries operating in the Sahel region. These operatives, funded by powerful foreign entities, were part of a broader strategy to destabilize Burkina Faso and other West African nations. The goal was to exploit the region's resources and weaken national sovereignty. This plot wasn't just about money. It was a power play against a self-sufficient Burkina Faso that had begun to reclaim control over its resources. Foreign interests had benefited from exploiting the region for years, and the rise of a stable, independent Burkina Faso threatened that dominance. The foiled conspiracy highlights the lengths foreign powers will go to maintain control over Africa's resources. It also signals the growing resistance of African nations, like Burkina Faso, against exploitation. The plot serves as a warning. Attempts to assert independence will not be tolerated. Beyond the coups and Traoré's personal life, what remarkable achievements can we attribute to Captain Ibrahim Traoré for his country since he seized power through military force 2 years ago? October 2025 marks 2 years since Captain Ibrahim Traoré assumed leadership of Burkina Faso. Rising from the October 2023 coup, Traoré has delivered over 80% of his promises, transforming the nation in ways that exceed expectations. His achievements span security, infrastructure, energy, healthcare, and economic independence, drawing global attention. The Faso Rail project is a cornerstone of this transformation, a nationwide railway network connecting provincial capitals. With 75% government ownership and 25% private investment, it includes a manufacturing plant in Bobo Dioulasso, enabling local production of train wagons and rails. The project, costing 70 billion CFA francs, is set to be completed in 18 months, creating jobs and fostering trade. Traoré's administration has embraced nuclear energy through a partnership with Russia's Rosatom to build a nuclear power plant. This project focuses on clean energy, healthcare, and industrial development, reducing reliance on fossil fuels and expanding electricity access. In Koudougou, the pharmaceutical technopole is being built to produce medicines domestically, cut dependency on imports, and improve healthcare access. In the next 5 years, 70 billion CFA franc initiative will create jobs and promote local production. Efforts to increase the value of natural resources include setting up a gold refinery to process gold locally, building a tomato processing plant to reduce the need for imports, and promoting agricultural mechanization This includes free tractor services, subsidized seeds, and fertilizers, which have boosted food security by over 50% in just 2 years.
Faso Rapid Intervention Battalion kills 28 terrorists. During Operation Zero Terrorists in the Solenzo pushes, the Defense and Security Forces, FDS, and Volunteers for the Defense of the Homeland, VDP, killed 29 terrorists in Montianqui village on January 2nd, 2025.
Military reforms have reclaimed territories once lost to insurgents. Advanced weaponry and strategic alliances with Russia, Turkey, and China have strengthened the military. Key regions like Djibo have been liberated, reconnecting isolated areas and uniting the Sahel region against terrorism. French has been abolished as the official language, reflecting a commitment to Pan-African ideals. Civil servants' salaries have increased, and the Central Bank of Burkina Faso ensures financial independence from France. Renewable energy projects include the nation's largest hydroelectric dam, boosting electricity access, industry, and agriculture. Mobile health clinics now provide essential care to remote areas, addressing healthcare disparities. In just 2 years, Captain Ibrahim Traoré has reshaped Burkina Faso, building a nation defined by resilience, independence, and progress. Considering everything we know about Captain Ibrahim Traoré, what lessons can African leaders learn from him to improve the future of their countries? Do you believe Traoré has the potential to shape the history of his country and Africa as a whole? This is the end. Thanks for watching. I wish you better life, foods, and money. Stay in the Big Wins family.